You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. This is a bit of an open show, ladies and gents. As I've confessed previously, I literally have nothing to say. So, I'm asking you guys to tell me what to say. Sounds like a good idea. Right, okay. Got a bunch of micro topics here. I'm going to do those. There is an article I want to discuss later on. It's a little bit of a rehash from last week. But hey, if you don't like it, you can tune out, I guess. It's not really a big deal. But it really encapsulates, in a nutshell, indeed from the guild leader of a top 3 hardcore 10-man guild in the world, that the whining over the 25 10-man change really has gone way too far. It's good stuff. Okay. Micro topics. So I'm going to be basically reading your email all the time. If you don't like it, hey, you can tune out. There's plenty of other things you can go check out. I don't really make any apologies for this, honestly. It's difficult to maintain enthusiasm for a game that you're barely even playing anymore because the content has got so damn stale. And there's only so angry that you can really be about that. At the end of the day, it's a video game. And it's difficult to get enthused to the point where you're mad at it. I'm most mad at the game when I'm most enjoying it. That's the funny thing about it. It's easy to conjure passion about a hobby that you're really into. I mean, right now, I can conjure passion about StarCraft 2. Really. Really. I can. Without any problems whatsoever. It's the reason I'm doing 3 broadcasted StarCraft 2 shows a week. It's very easy to conjure passion for that. It's very easy to enjoy that. And for God's sake, I was on air for 4 hours last night. Barely even tired. I mean, good lord. Yeah, that's me to talk for an hour and a half about World of Warcraft, and I have nothing to say. Speaks volumes, really, and yet nothing at all. Okay, let's get on with it. Let's read some emails, shall we? And again, you can tweet some topics or send me via the chat. This is from X. Apparently just X. Talbanar Rogue Fakes. There we go. And he says this. Hey, TB, for about a year and a half, I played WoW, and then about half a year ago, I cancelled my subscription to WoW, since I started a new school and stuff like that. Also because I was kind of bored. However, I'm planning on returning at some point. In the meantime, I found an alternative called Runes of Magic. It's a great free casual MMO with no sub I can play whenever I want. My question is, when do you think you should quit the game for a while, and when do you think it's a good time to come back? Do you think you should wait, for example, a whole patch length, or should you just get back on the wagon whenever new content is released? What are your thoughts? Thanks for your time. Okay. Right. I can give you a fairly simple answer to that, honestly. The answer is quite simply this. You should quit whenever you've stopped having enough fun to justify a subscription fee. If you continue to spend money on a game that you are not enjoying, then you are a sucker. It's as simple as that. If you're not having any fun, then you are, again, a sucker. That's the time you should quit. As to when you should come back to the game, you should come back to the game specifically this. When you feel there is sufficient content to justify you coming back for at least 1 month. At least. Because otherwise, if there's only enough content for you to come back for, say, 2 weeks, then you leave, then you've wasted half your month's subscription fee. It's a waste of time. It's all about value for money, really, and it's also, more importantly perhaps, about... It's gone out of my head. It's crazy. What is it about? I must be losing my mind. That's it. I remember. There, I'm allowed 1 mistake this show. I've just had it. It's about voting with your feet when it comes to how you spend your money and what you expect from Blizzard for your money. If you continue to pay money for a game that you're not playing, then what you show to Blizzard is what people showed to Blizzard when TRH came out, and when hundreds of thousands of people threw millions of dollars at Blizzard for the sole purpose of getting a reskinned horse mount. What you tell them is, you're stupid. You are dumb. Really, you are. What you tell Blizzard is that you will tolerate any amount of nonsense from them, and that they are free to do so, and continue to do so. That's what you tell them. That's a bad message to send to any company. It is vitally important to keep any company accountable for its product and its service. Especially in the case of Blizzard, because it's providing both. There's the product, and there are the continued products, and then there are, of course, the service elements to it. The monthly subscription fee, the MMO. That's important. If they're not providing the standard that you require from the service and from the product, you should stop paying for it. Because otherwise, it's an affirmation. Now, you might think that one person's unsubbing makes no difference. Not true. For one thing, you can submit a reason when you quit. 2, you are not the only one unsubbing. I don't really want to make an election comparison, but I'm going to anyway. Those cowards, those wimps that thought their vote was so important that they couldn't waste it on anything other than the 2 main parties this year. Those cowards that got cold feet at the polling booth. Spineless. That decided to vote for the lesser of 2 evils as opposed to vote for the party they actually believed in. Those cowards in the UK, that is what you are like if you don't vote with your feet. And more importantly, if enough people actually voted with their feet and voted with their heart, and this applies to anything, services, products, or indeed an entire general election to determine the fate of your country. If you do not vote honestly with your feet, then nothing will get done. It's amusing, really. Voting with your feet is both the least important and most important thing you can do. You are right when you say that your vote is irrelevant. It does not matter. You are right. However, you are also incredibly wrong. It's a nasty catch-22, isn't it? It really is. People are unwilling to vote with their feet because they think their vote matters too much to, quote, waste. However, you then have people not voting correctly. And this applies to, again, anything, elections, products, whatever. They don't vote with their feet properly, and as such, the message never gets across. Nothing happens. So your vote in anything in life is both the least important and the most important. Anyway, that's how I apply it to WoW, at any rate. There's your politics dose for the day. Okay, let's go on, shall we? Here's a micro topic. It comes from Warlord Gnarm of Valeria US Horde. He says this. Some of the talent trees for various classes have changed. You may want to check out some of the new talents and the ramifications in PvE or PvP. Probably not your cup of tea, but it's better than nothing. It's of classes that I don't play, so I'm not looking at them. I don't know anything about these classes. Why bother even pretending that I do? Next topic. This one comes from Demargus of EU Frostmourne, and he says this. Hey TB, you often express that you feel there is a vocal minority of entitled whiners who are to blame, for a large part at least, for the disagreeable changes made to the game in Wrath of the Lich King. I would like to hear what you think the reason is that this minority became vocal, because I can't remember whining with such frequency and persistence in most of TBC. And it's not like there were no scrubs, casuals, or non-raiders in TBC. The difference was that they knew their place, I guess. There wasn't as much complaining because it was understood that raiding meant working for it and that you needed to know what you were doing. People not willing to invest the time and effort to go raiding where the content had the... God, I hate people that don't write properly! I understand you're from a foreign country, but really, transposing this nonsense on the fly is kind of tricky. People not willing to invest the time and effort to go raiding had to be content with heroic 5-mans, which luckily were challenging, and low-level raid content. And it was only at the end of TBC that the nerf bat and welfare epics got to the point where it seemed to be too much. Do you see this development simply as the outcome of WoW going from nerds only to mainstream gaming? And Blizzard's, as well as Activision's decision to go for that market as much as possible? And is it even remotely possible that, as so many people I know are hoping Cataclysm will turn this all around? No one who looks at Kotick's policies can seriously believe that he'd ever value product quality over sales figures, even though these would appear to be linked to the layman. Indeed. Well, if you want to know the reason why I think the vocal minority gained so much power, it's because Blizzard opened the door a crack. Therein lies the problem. They gave an inch. And you know what happens when you give an inch, folks? Well, entitled casuals take a mile, and another mile, and another mile, until we get to this point. We've walked so far down the road, we've taken so many miles, that we are way so far away from where we started. And I will be honest, I am not convinced that Blizzard knows the way back. They might have to ask for directions. It's a good analogy, isn't it? It works. This vocal minority gained strength when a sign of weakness was shown. That's the problem. When Blizzard opened that door, they did so themselves, I might add. When they opened the door, the entitled casuals rushed through it, and they blocked it. They kept it open. They wedged something in there. And that door continues to stay open, and all that happens is that things get worse and worse and worse. Now, I would have to say that a lot of these concessions most likely are to appease a hemorrhaging player base. A lot of people gone in wrath. The problem you also have, and this is what applies to the statement about Kotick thinking that, hey, he doesn't value product quality. You're right, he doesn't. That's why Tony Hawk Ride exists. An abysmal waste of space. One of these horrible plastic peripheral games that ripped off so many people because it's such a terrible, terrible game. That's really, really bad. However, bear this in mind. This is a different animal, ladies and gentlemen. When you bring in scrubs into your game, you bring in players that are not dedicated to anything. That's why they're scrubs. If they were dedicated to anything, they would be able to rise above the scrubbiness. They would be able to raise themselves to a different stratosphere. They'd be able to do the content. They'd be able to perform well. And you know what? They wouldn't complain either. People like that are not dedicated to anything, including WoW. Including, ladies and gentlemen, the subscription. They are fair weather players. They will happily leave whenever the hell they please. And you know what? You know why quality is so important in Cataclysm? Because you need the guys who are dedicated. Because dedicated guys stay in the game. Those guys that are dedicated to a raiding schedule, they stay in the game. Those guys that are dedicated to the advancement of their guild, they stay in the game. Those guys that are dedicated to improving their PvP skill and rising to the highest echelons, they stay in the game. Those people that want to progress and are willing to work for it, they stay in the game. Who doesn't stay in the game? The antithesis of that, the entitled casual, absolutely does not stay with the game. They are fair weather players. They will quit at the slightest provocation. They will stomp their feet. They will run away. Simple as that. And therein lies the problem. If you build your player base on a foundation of those kind of people, then you are setting yourself up for a huge failure. Absolutely, astonishingly bad idea. You know what? I think Blizzard might have realized that. All of the changes thus far in Cataclysm seem to indicate that they have, bar, of course, the badges. They still seem to be going down this route. I don't know why, but hey, I can live with that. What I can't live with is bad content. Why do I want to quit now? Because there's bad content. Simple as that. Blizzard must realize right now, with a waning player base, that the only way to recover those lost players is to create a game that is enjoyable and challenging. And that's why Cataclysm will hopefully be the answer to everybody's prayers. And that is why listening to the vocal minority is a bad idea. It should surprise you not that the biggest period of growth in terms of the subscriber base and the golden age, both in terms of how many subscribers were paying for the game, was TBC. And ever since then, it's been in decline. Correlation does not equal causation, ladies and gentlemen, but as far as I'm concerned, that is an indictment of what happens when you listen to the casual, entitled minority. My name is Total Biscuit. You are listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. More topics, send them in, and I shall munch them down. It shall be delicious. I'm gonna play some Master Plan. This one is called Enlighten Me. I'll be right back after this. To be honest, this is something that, quite frankly, those entitled casual morons could really use. Enjoy.